My name is Nikolai Petrov. I was born in a small village outside Voronezh, Russia, where the forests grow dense and the winters bite deep into your bones. My grandfather was a priest in our local Eastern Orthodox church, and my father followed in his footsteps. It seemed natural that I would do the same. But my path took a different turn when I was 16. That winter was especially harsh. Our neighbor's daughter, Irina, began acting strangely. She spoke in languages she'd never learned, knew things about people she'd never met, and sometimes her voice changed to something that made the dogs howl. The local doctor said it was a mental illness and wanted to take her away. My father knew better. I watched from the doorway as my father and grandfather performed what they later told me was an exorcism. It lasted 3 days. On the third day, Irina was freed from whatever had taken hold of her. That's when I learned about my family's true calling. For generations, the men in my family weren't just priests, they were exorcists, specially trained by a secret order within the Eastern Orthodox Church. At 18, I was sent to a monastery in Greece for training. I spent 8 years learning ancient texts, memorizing prayers, and studying cases of possession throughout history. But the most important lessons were about the rules. Every exorcist follows strict rules. They keep us alive and prevent the entities we banish from returning or spreading. Now at 35, I've performed 47 exorcisms across Eastern Europe and Russia. Each case has its own challenges, but the rules remain constant. Until last month, when I received a letter from the Patriarchate about a special case in America. A small town in Maine with an old Russian community was experiencing something they couldn't explain. The local priest had requested help, specifically asking for me because he'd heard about my work with children. The letter included a list of rules specific to this case. Rules I'd never seen before. Rules that made me uneasy. But I'd taken an oath to serve, so I packed my worn leather case with holy water, incense, my cross, and the ancient prayer book passed down from my grandfather, and boarded a plane to America. The plane touched down at Portland International Airport on a Tuesday afternoon. Gray clouds hung low, promising rain. I clutched my small suitcase in one hand and my exorcism kit in the other as I navigated through the terminal. Father Mikhail was supposed to meet me, but the arrival area was oddly empty except for a young woman holding a sign with my name. "Father Petrov?" she asked, her accent distinctly American, but with traces of Russian underneath. "I'm Sofia Belova. Father Mikhail sent me to pick you up. He's unable to leave the church right now." Her eyes darted away when she said this. The first warning sign. "Is Father Mikhail well?" I asked as we walked to her car. "He's been keeping vigil, 3 days now." The second warning sign. The drive to New Vysoky took nearly 2 hours. The town sat nestled between dense pine forests and the Atlantic coast, isolated from neighboring communities. As we drove, Sophia told me about the town. Founded by Russian immigrants in the late 1800s, now home to about 2,000 people, many still holding to the old ways and the Orthodox faith. "The trouble started 3 months ago," she explained, hands tight on the steering wheel. "A family, the Kolikovs, their daughter Anna began changing. At first, they thought it was just teenage rebellion. She's 12, but then..." "Tell me what happened," I prompted when she fell silent. She started knowing things, private things about people in town, secrets no one had told her. Then came the languages, German, Latin, even some Asian language no one recognized. Anna only speaks English and a little Russian from Sunday school. Sophia swallowed hard. "Last month, she predicted Mrs. Yegorova's death. Told her she would die in her sleep on the 17th. Everyone thought it was just a disturbed child saying awful things. But on the morning of the 18th, they found Mrs. Yegorova dead in her bed. We turned onto a narrow road bordered by tall pines. A wooden sign welcomed us to New Vysoky. The church sent Father Mikhail a letter with special instructions for Anna's case, I said. Did he share those with you? Sophia shook her head. He only said they were different than usual, and that we needed to bring in a specialist. She glanced at me. That's you. Rain began to fall as we pulled up to St. Nicholas Orthodox Church, a modest wooden structure with the traditional onion dome. Despite its small size, it carried an undeniable presence. Father Mikhail was waiting under the covered entrance, his long beard now streaked with gray since I'd last seen him at a conference in Moscow 5 years ago. Nikolai, he embraced me, his voice low and tired. Thank God you've come. Inside the church, the smell of incense hung thick in the air. Candles flickered before icons of saints, casting dancing light across the walls. We sat in a small office off the main sanctuary, and Father Mikhail handed me a cup of strong black tea. The Kolokov girl is unlike anything I've encountered, he said, rubbing his reddened eyes. I've tried the standard rites. Nothing works. Whatever has taken hold of her. He trailed off, making the sign of the cross. The Patriarchate sent specific rules for this case, I said. Have you seen them? He nodded and pulled a folded paper from his pocket. They arrived yesterday. I've been trying to understand them. I took the paper and unfolded it. Written in formal Church Slavonic were 7 rules. 1. The exorcism must begin at exactly midnight and end before dawn. 2. Only you may speak directly to the entity. All others must remain silent. 3. Never ask the entity its name. 4. Keep a circle of sea salt unbroken around the girl at all times. 5. If the girl offers you anything, do not accept. 6. The girl must hold an object from her early childhood throughout the ritual. 7. If the girl begins to sing, cover your ears immediately and recite Psalm 91. The rules were indeed unusual. The prohibition against asking the entity's name was particularly troubling. Identifying a possessing entity by name is often the first step in gaining power over it. Have you met Anna? I asked. Father Mikhail shook his head. Not since she's been changed. The family has kept her home. Only the mother stays with her now. The father took their son to relatives in Boston after. After what? After Anna told him exactly how his mother died back in Russia 20 years ago. Details he'd never shared with anyone here. Details he claims even he didn't know. I folded the paper and tucked it into my pocket. I need to see her tonight. The rules say the exorcism must begin at midnight. I've made arrangements. Her mother will be expecting us at 11. Father Mikhail stood, swaying slightly from exhaustion. You should rest first. Sophia will show you to the rectory guest room. As I followed Sophia out, Father Mikhail called after me. Nikolai. There's one more thing. The town doctor has been treating Anna with medications. He doesn't believe in possession. He'll be there tonight, and he's difficult. I've dealt with skeptics before, I assured him. Dr. Phillips isn't just a skeptic. He's angry, believes we're making things worse. Father Mikhail's expression darkened. Just be prepared. The rain had intensified as Sophia led me to the small rectory behind the church. The guest room was sparse, a single bed, desk, chair, and a small bathroom attached. Perfect for my needs. We'll come get you at 10:30, Sophia said, lingering at the door. Father, is Anna going to be okay? I wished I could offer comforting certainties. In my line of work, there are none. We'll do everything possible, I said instead. After she left, I unpacked my exorcism kit and laid the items on the desk. My silver cross passed down through generations, a vial of holy water from the Jordan River, Byzantine incense, my prayer book, and a small icon of St. Michael the Archangel. I added a bag of sea salt, given the unusual rules. I spent the next hours in prayer and preparation, reviewing the specific prayers needed and meditating on the strength required. At exactly 10:30, a knock came at my door. The Kolakov home sat at the edge of town, a 2-story clapboard house with peeling blue paint. All the windows were dark except for one on the second floor, where a faint light glowed behind drawn curtains. Mrs. Kolakov answered the door before we knocked, as if she'd been watching for us. Her face was gaunt, with dark circles under bloodshot eyes. "Please," was all she said as she stepped aside to let us in. The inside of the house was warm, but carried a strange smell, like meat left too long in the sun, mixed with something sweet and cloying. We followed Mrs. Kolakov upstairs, the old wooden steps creaking under our weight. At the end of the hallway, a man in a rumpled suit stood leaning against the wall. He straightened when he saw us, his expression hardening. "More priests," he said flatly. "Wonderful." "Dr. Phillips," Father Mikhail nodded stiffly. "This is Father Petrov. He's a specialist from Russia." Dr. Phillips looked me over with undisguised skepticism. "A specialist in what exactly? Medieval superstition? That child needs psychiatric care, not more religious mumbo-jumbo." "My colleague has extensive experience with cases like Anna's," Father Mikhail replied tensely. "There are no cases like Anna's," Dr. Phillips snapped. "She has a severe dissociative disorder triggered by trauma. These rituals you're performing are only reinforcing her delusions." I stepped forward. "Doctor, I understand your concerns. You're trying to help Anna through the means you understand. I respect that. Perhaps we can both observe her condition tonight and discuss afterward." Something in my calm tone seemed to diffuse him slightly. He gave a curt nod. "Fine, but I'm staying in the room the entire time. And if I see anything that could harm her physically or psychologically, I'm putting a stop to it." "Of course," I agreed. Rule number 2 stated that only I could speak to the entity, but having the doctor present wasn't explicitly forbidden. Mrs. Kolakov led us to Anna's bedroom door. "She's been quiet today. That's usually not a good sign." She turned the knob and pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit only by a small bedside lamp. Sitting perfectly still in the center of the bed was a girl with long dark hair hanging over her face. She wore a white nightgown, her thin arms resting on her knees. She didn't look up when we entered. "Anna," her mother said softly, "the priest from Russia is here to help you." Slowly, the girl raised her head. As her hair fell away from her face, I saw that she looked like any normal 12-year-old, except for her eyes. They weren't the eyes of a child. They were alert, calculating, aware in a way that sent a flutter of unease through my chest. She smiled at me. "You've come a very long way, Father Nikolai Petrov. Was the flight from Moscow uncomfortable? Economy class can be so cramped for someone of your height." I hadn't told her my full name, and I'd flown from Moscow, not Portland, as most would assume. "Hello, Anna," I said calmly, setting down my case. "That's not my name anymore," she replied, her smile widening to show small, even teeth. "But you're not allowed to ask what it is now, are you? Rule number 3. She giggled, the sound like breaking glass. "I like these new rules. They make the game more interesting." Dr. Phillips stepped forward. "Anna, remember what we talked about? About creating different personalities to express your feelings?" The girl didn't even glance his way. Her eyes remained fixed on mine. "It's almost midnight," she said. "Tick-tock, Father Nikolai. Better set up quickly." I turned to the others. "I need to prepare the room according to the instructions. Mrs. Kolakov, do you have something from Anna's early childhood? A toy or blanket, perhaps?" Anna's mother nodded and left the room. Father Mikhail helped me clear space in the center of the room, moving a small rug aside. I began pouring sea salt in a circle large enough for Anna to sit within. "This is ridiculous," Dr. Phillips muttered, but he stepped back, watching with arms crossed. Mrs. Kolakov returned with a small, worn teddy bear. This was her favorite. She called him Misha. As I completed the salt circle, the air in the room seemed to thicken. The bedside lamp flickered once, twice. Anna slid from the bed and walked to the circle, her movements fluid like water. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the circle. I nodded, and she stepped carefully inside, settling cross-legged on the floor. Her mother handed her the teddy bear, which she clutched to her chest. "Everyone must remain silent except for me," I instructed, looking pointedly at Dr. Phillips. "Whatever happens, do not break the salt circle, and if Anna begins to sing, cover your ears and I will handle it." Father Mikhail nodded and moved to stand by the door. Mrs. Kolikov sank into a chair in the corner, clutching a small Orthodox cross. Dr. Phillips remained standing, his expression a mixture of frustration and concern. I checked my watch. 1 minute to midnight. I opened my prayer book and laid out the other items from my case. The rain outside had stopped, and an unnatural silence settled over the room. No creaking house sounds, no distant cars, not even the sound of breathing, though there were 5 of us in the small space. At exactly midnight, I began. "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit," I made the sign of the cross. "We come before you, O Lord, to beseech your mercy for this child Anna." Anna's eyes never left my face, her smile never wavering. As I continued the prayers, her expression remained unchanged, but the teddy bear in her hands began to change. Its sewn mouth seemed to widen, the button eyes to sink deeper into the fabric face. I continued the ritual, moving through the prayers methodically. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Anna remained perfectly still, unnaturally so for a child of 12. 20 minutes into the ritual, she spoke, interrupting my prayer. "Your grandfather didn't die of a heart attack," she said conversationally. "He suffocated, slowly, calling your name." I paused only briefly before continuing. This was a common tactic, personal information used to distract and upset the exorcist. "Your father knows what really happened. He covered it up. Ask him when you go home. If you go home." I continued reciting the prayers, but Anna kept talking, her voice taking on different tones and accents. "Would you like to know how they all die? Everyone in this room, I can tell you. It would be a gift from me to you." She extended her hand, palm up. "Just take my hand, and I'll whisper it to you." Rule 5 echoed in my mind. If the girl offers you anything, do not accept. I ignored her outstretched hand and continued the ritual. Anna's smile finally faltered. "You're no fun," she pouted, suddenly childlike again. The last priest was more interested. He wanted to know things. A crash from downstairs made everyone jump. Mrs. Kolikov gasped. Father Mikhail moved toward the door. "No one leaves," I said firmly. "It's trying to separate us." Another crash, louder this time. It sounded like furniture being overturned. Then a child's cry, a boy's voice, called out, "Mom! Help me!" Mrs. Kolikov stood, her face white. "Petya, that's my son's voice." "Your son is in Boston," I reminded her. "It's not real." The voice called again, more desperate. Mrs. Kolikov pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Please, sit down," I told her gently but firmly. "We must continue." Anna giggled again. "Poor little Petya, all alone downstairs. Would you like to know what's happening to him right now?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I could show you pictures." I raised my voice, continuing the prayers. Anna's amusement vanished, replaced by a cold stare. The temperature in the room plummeted suddenly. Our breath became visible in puffs of white vapor. "You think your prayers have power here?" she hissed. The childish voice was gone, replaced by something deeper, multi-layered. "Your rules won't save you. They were made by frightened old men who don't understand what they face." I pressed on, moving to the next phase of the ritual. Anna's body went rigid, her back arching at an uncomfortable angle. The teddy bear dropped from her hands. "She's having a seizure." Dr. Phillips stepped forward. "This needs to stop." "Stay back," I warned. "Don't break the circle." Anna's body relaxed as suddenly as it had tensed. She reached for the teddy bear again, pulling it close. Then she began to hum, a low melody that gradually took shape into words. She was singing. "Cover your ears," I shouted, following Rule 7. "Now." Father Mikhail and Mrs. Kolikoff immediately pressed their hands over their ears. Dr. Phillips hesitated, confusion on his face. "It's just a lullaby," he protested. The singing grew louder. The melody was sweet, the words in a language I didn't recognize, but its effect was immediate. My vision blurred. The room seemed to tilt and spin. An overwhelming desire to sleep swept over me. I pressed my hands to my ears and began reciting Psalm 91 as instructed. "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." Dr. Phillips swayed on his feet, his eyelids drooping. Before I could warn him again, he collapsed to the floor, unconscious but still breathing. The singing stopped. Anna cocked her head, studying the fallen doctor with interest. "Weak mind," she commented. "Yours is stronger. I like that." Her attention returned to me. "You want to help little Anna, don't you? She's still in here, you know, screaming. Shall I let you hear her?" Without warning, Anna's face transformed into a mask of terror. "Please help me," she cried, her voice now genuinely childlike and filled with fear. "It hurts. Make it stop." Tears streamed down her face. "I want my mom." Mrs. Kolikoff sobbed from her corner, her hands still over her ears. Just as quickly, Anna's expression returned to the calm, adult-like state. "Convincing, isn't it? She's quite the little actress when properly motivated." I continued with the ritual, moving to the prayers of banishment. This was usually when resistance became strongest. True to form, Anna's demeanor changed. The smile vanished, her eyes narrowed. "You think you're protected by your circles and your words?" she snarled. "Do you know what happened to the last 3 exorcists who tried to banish me? Their souls are still screaming." The wind outside rose to a howl. The bedroom door slammed shut, though no one had touched it. The teddy bear in Anna's hands began to leak a dark fluid from its eyes and mouth, staining her white nightgown. "I've existed for centuries before your church," she spat. "I'll exist for centuries after it's gone. You are nothing, a speck, a moment." I raised my voice over the wind and her words, continuing the ritual. The icons I'd placed at the cardinal points around the salt circle began to tremble. The glass covering St. Michael cracked with a sharp ping. Anna laughed, a sound that slithered up my spine. "Your archangel can't hear you now, Nikolai." No one can. But I persisted, moving through the ritual as I'd been trained. This was the critical moment, when the entity fought hardest, knowing it was in danger of being cast out. Suddenly, Anna went completely still. The wind died. The shaking stopped. Even the teddy bear seemed ordinary again, though the stains remained on her nightgown. "Let me tell you what's really happening in this little town," she said, her voice now conversational. "Anna isn't the only one. I'm in all of them. The butcher who smiles too widely, the librarian with the twitching hands, even sweet Sophia who drove you from the airport. Parts of me, everywhere. This isn't an exorcism, Nikolai. It's a welcoming party." A chill ran through me at her words, but I recognized another distraction tactic. I continued the prayers, my voice steady. Anna sighed dramatically. "Fine, let's move things along." Without warning, she convulsed violently. Her back arched again, her limbs stiffening. A guttural sound came from her throat, and her eyes rolled back, showing only whites. Father Mikhail stepped forward in alarm, but I held up my hand to stop him. Stay back. This is part of the process. Anna's body continued to convulse. Her mother wept silently in the corner. Dr. Phillips remained unconscious on the floor. I was nearing the end of the ritual, the final prayers of banishment. Anna's convulsions intensified. The salt circle remained unbroken, a good sign. The entity was trapped. As I spoke the final words, Anna let out a scream that seemed to come from somewhere far deeper than her small body could contain. The remaining icons shattered. The light bulb in the bedside lamp burst, plunging the room into darkness broken only by moonlight streaming through the window. In the sudden silence that followed, I heard soft, regular breathing. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw Anna lying peacefully within the circle, the teddy bear still clutched in her arms. She looked like a normal sleeping child. Mrs. Kolikoff rushed to the circle's edge. Is she? Don't break the circle yet, I cautioned, kneeling beside Anna. I checked her pulse, strong and steady. Her color was returning to normal. Anna? I called softly. Anna, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered, then opened. The eyes that looked back at me were different, clear, confused, and unmistakably those of a 12-year-old girl. Who are you? She asked in a small voice. Where's my mom? I'm here, baby, Mrs. Kolikoff cried. Right here. I carefully broke the salt circle myself, making a path. Mrs. Kolikoff rushed through, gathering her daughter in her arms. Anna clung to her, bewildered. Mom! Why are there people in my room? Why is Dr. Phillips on the floor? Father Mikhail helped the now-stirring doctor to his feet. Dr. Phillips looked dazed, confused about what had happened. The exorcism appears to have been successful, I told them quietly, but we'll need to monitor her carefully over the next few days. Anna looked at me with innocent confusion. Exorcism? Like in the movies? Why would I need that? You've been sick, honey, her mother said, stroking her hair. But you're better now. Dr. Phillips, now fully awake, approached Anna cautiously. He checked her pupils, her pulse. Remarkable, he murmured, more to himself than to us. Her vital signs are completely normal. He looked at me with new respect, mingled with lingering confusion. I don't understand what I just witnessed. Faith and medicine need not be enemies, doctor, I said quietly. We both sought the same outcome, Anna's well-being. As the tension in the room dissipated, I began packing away my things. The ordeal had lasted nearly 4 hours. Dawn would be breaking soon. Father Mikhail helped me gather the broken glass from the icons. It's truly over, he whispered. It appears so, I replied. But what? I hesitated, recalling Anna's words about others in the town. Was it merely a distraction, or was there truth to it? The rules had stated nothing about aftercare or follow-up procedures. We should remain vigilant, I said finally. And I should stay in Nuvisoki for a few more days, just to be certain. As we prepared to leave, Anna called out to me from her bed, where her mother was tucking her in. Father? I turned back. Yes, Anna. There's something important I need to tell you. Her voice was serious, her expression troubled. It wants me to remember to tell you. I stepped forward cautiously. What do you want? What I've always wanted, Sophia replied, wading deeper into the water. What was promised to me generations ago by the founders of this town. 7 souls every 30 years. Anna would have completed the cycle, but you interfered. What do you mean, completed the cycle? I asked, trying to keep her talking while inching closer to the water's edge. This town exists because of me, she said, the waves now lapping at her chest. I protect it from storms, from famine, from disasters that destroy other coastal communities. In exchange, I take 7, 1 from each founding family. It's a fair arrangement. And if the arrangement is broken? I asked. Her laugh echoed across the cove. Then I take everyone. The full price will be paid one way or another. Dr. Phillips had been slowly moving to my right, trying to circle around to approach Sophia from another angle. She noticed. "Stay where you are, Doctor, unless you wish to join me." She submerged suddenly, disappearing beneath the dark waves. "Sophia!" Dr. Phillips shouted, rushing toward the water. I caught his arm. "Wait! It's trying to lure you in." We scanned the surface frantically. Nothing. Then, 20 feet further out, Sophia's head broke the surface. She was still singing, but her voice sounded strained, as if two people were fighting for control of the same vocal cords. "Help me!" she cried in her normal voice. "I can't. It's making me." She submerged again. Dr. Phillips tore off his jacket. "I'm going in after her." "No," I said firmly. "That's what it wants. We need a different approach." I pulled out my prayer book and began reciting the prayers of exorcism, my voice carrying across the water. Sophia surfaced again, this time thrashing wildly. "Your prayers have no power here," the entity roared through her. "This is my domain!" I continued the prayers, wading into the shallows. The freezing water sent shockwaves through my body, but I pressed on. "The rules," I called out. "You said they were going to change." "What did you mean?" Sophia went still, treading water. "You still don't understand, do you? The rules aren't just for exorcists. They're for me too. Rules that bind, rules that free. The original pact had rules. 7 souls willingly given. But you broke that rule when you took Anna. Now new rules apply." "What new rules?" I demanded. "Find out yourself," she laughed. Then horrifyingly she began to sink, not fighting, not struggling, just sinking deliberately beneath the waves. Dr. Phillips didn't hesitate. He dove into the water, swimming powerfully toward where Sophia had disappeared. I waded in deeper, continuing the prayers, though I feared they would have little effect in this place. Minutes passed. Dr. Phillips dove repeatedly, searching the dark waters. Finally, he returned to shore, gasping and shivering. "I can't find her," he said between breaths. "The current's too strong. She's gone." We searched until dawn, but found no trace of Sophia. As the fog finally lifted with the morning sun, we trudged back to town, soaked and defeated. "What did it mean about rules?" Dr. Phillips asked as we drove back. "And what was that about 7 souls from founding families?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I intend to find out." Over the next 2 days, I worked with Father Mikhail to research the town's history. We discovered that New Visoki had been founded by 7 Russian families fleeing their homeland after a series of disasters had destroyed their coastal village in Siberia. Strangely, New Visoki had prospered while neighboring Maine towns struggled with harsh weather, poor fishing, and economic hardship. Most disturbing was the pattern we uncovered. Every 30 years, exactly 7 people died in New Visoki under unusual circumstances. The most recent cycle had been in the 1990s, a series of drownings at Griffin's Cove. It's a pact, I realized. The founding families made a deal with an entity, protection for the town in exchange for sacrifices. And Anna was meant to be the 7th sacrifice this cycle, Father Mikhail said grimly. But your exorcism freed her from the entity's control. Which means it needs to find another way to complete the cycle, I concluded. Or it will take everyone as it threatened. We needed to find documentation of the original pact. If such a thing existed, it would likely be hidden somewhere in the church archives. Father Mikhail and I spent hours searching through dusty boxes and ancient ledgers. Our breakthrough came when we discovered a small metal box built into the wall behind a large icon of Saint Nicholas. Inside was a sealed document written in an archaic Russian dialect. The content confirmed our worst fears. The founding families had indeed made a pact with an entity they called only the Guardian of the Waters. In exchange for protection and prosperity, they agreed to provide 7 sacrifices every 30 years, 1 from each family, all descendants of the original 7. Most disturbing was the method of selection. The entity would choose one vessel from among the 7 families, someone young and impressionable. Through this vessel, it would mark the chosen sacrifices and carry out their deaths if they did not go willingly. Anna was the vessel this time, I murmured. That's why she knew things she shouldn't, spoke languages she'd never learned. But the document also included something unexpected: instructions for breaking the cycle permanently. A final sacrifice, freely given by one who carried the blood of all 7 families. Is such a person even possible? Father Mikhail wondered aloud. Over generations, the families intermarried, I reasoned. There could be someone. We took the document to the town historian, Mrs. Baranova, who also served as the church treasurer. She agreed to check the town genealogical records. Meanwhile, I returned to the Kolokov home to check on Anna. Mrs. Kolokov greeted me warmly. Anna seemed completely recovered, playing in the yard with neighborhood children. But as I watched from the porch, I noticed her stop suddenly, staring out toward the sea. Anna? I approached carefully. Is everything all right? She turned to me, her expression troubled. It's not over, she said quietly. I can still feel it sometimes, especially when I'm near water. What does it feel like? I asked, kneeling to her level. Like someone's calling my name from far away. It wants me to go to the cave. What cave, Anna? She pointed north. The sea cave past Griffin's Cove. That's where it all started, where they made the promise. A sea cave. The document had mentioned a ritual site, but not its specific location. This could be crucial information. Anna, have you ever been to this cave? She shook her head. No, but I can see it. In my dreams. That evening, Mrs. Baranova arrived at the rectory with the genealogical records. Her face was pale as she spread them on the table. I found what you're looking for, she said, pointing to one name on a complex family tree. There is one person in New Vysoki today who carries the blood of all 7 founding families. We all leaned forward to see the name. Anna Kolokov, she said. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Anna, the girl I'd already helped once, the one who'd been used as the entity's vessel. Now we discovered she was also the only one who could end the cycle permanently. That's why it chose her as its vessel, Father Mikhail murmured. It knew. The next morning, I met with Dr. Phillips to share what we'd learned. He was skeptical about the pact, but couldn't deny the pattern of deaths or what he'd witnessed at the cove. So what do we do? He asked. This sacrifice the document mentions. What exactly does it entail? I'm not sure, I admitted. The text is ambiguous. It says, freely given by one who carries the blood of all 7 families. Not a death sacrifice, but something symbolic. And you think Anna has to be the one to make this sacrifice? After everything she's been through? I don't like it either, I said. But if we don't find a solution, more people will die. The entity made that clear. Our conversation was interrupted by an urgent knock. It was Mrs. Kolokov, frantic with worry. Anna's gone, she cried. I went to wake her for breakfast, and her bed was empty. The window was open. Did she say anything yesterday about going somewhere? I asked, already reaching for my coat. No, nothing. But Mrs. Kolokov hesitated. She left this on her pillow. She handed me a folded piece of paper. In a child's handwriting were the words, I'm going to fix it. Don't worry. The sea cave, I said. She mentioned it yesterday. She's gone to the cave north of Griffin's Cove. We gathered a search party quickly. Myself, Dr. Phillips, Father Mikhail, and 2 local fishermen who knew the coastline well. The morning was clear, the fog that had shrouded Sophia's disappearance nowhere to be seen. The cave entrance is underwater at high tide, one of the fishermen explained as we hurried along the coastal path. But it's low tide now. We should be able to reach it on foot. Beyond Griffin's Cove, the coastline grew more rugged. Massive boulders and jagged rocks replaced the sandy beach. After 20 minutes of difficult climbing, we reached a narrow inlet where the sea had carved a deep gash into the cliff face. "There it is," the fisherman pointed. "The sea cave." The entrance was a dark mouth in the rock face, partially obscured by fallen stones. As we drew closer, I could make out ancient markings carved around the opening, similar to those on the wax seal of the binding document. "Anna," I called into the darkness. No response. Dr. Phillips produced a powerful flashlight from his medical bag. "Let's go," he said grimly. The cave entrance opened into a surprisingly large chamber. The air was heavy with the smell of the ocean and something else. Something old and unsettling. The walls glittered with sea salt and mineral deposits. In the center of the chamber stood what could only be the binding stone, a rough pillar of dark rock about 4 feet high, covered in the same symbols we'd seen on the document. 7 smaller stones surrounded it in a perfect circle. And there, kneeling before the central stone, was Anna. Her eyes were closed, her small hands pressed against the rough surface of the stone. She was speaking softly in a language I didn't recognize. "Anna?" I called gently, not wanting to startle her. "Anna, can you hear me?" She opened her eyes and turned to us. There was no fear in her expression, only a sad determination that no 12-year-old should ever have to show. "I know what I have to do," she said simply. "It showed me. In my dreams." "What did it show you, Anna?" I asked, approaching slowly. "I have to give something up. Something important. Then it will leave everyone alone." "What does it want you to give up?" Dr. Phillips asked, his medical concern evident. Anna touched her throat. "My voice. It speaks through our voices. If I give mine up willingly, it can't use anyone else's ever again." The pieces clicked into place. The singing during the exorcism. Sophia's voice calling Dr. Phillips to the water. The entity operated through sound, through the human voice. "Anna," I knelt beside her. "Are you sure about this? There might be another way." She shook her head. "There isn't. I saw everything when it was inside me. All the people who died before. All the people who will die if I don't do this." She looked at me steadily. "It has to be me. Because of my blood." Before I could respond, the stone beneath Anna's hands began to glow with a faint blue light. The symbols etched into it pulsed like a heartbeat. "It's time," she said. She looked back at us one last time. "Tell my mom I love her." Then she turned to the stone and spoke clearly, her voice echoing in the cave. "I am Anna Kolakov. I carry the blood of all 7 families. I offer my sacrifice freely, my voice, given willingly, to bind you forever in silence." The blue light intensified, spreading up Anna's arms like water flowing upward against gravity. She didn't flinch or try to pull away. The light reached her throat, coalescing into a pulsing collar around her neck. Dr. Phillips moved forward, but I held him back. "The process must complete without interruption," I warned. Anna's eyes widened suddenly. Her mouth opened in what should have been a scream, but no sound emerged. The blue light around her throat intensified to blinding brightness. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded. Anna collapsed, Dr. Phillips breaking free of my grip to rush to her side. He checked her pulse, her breathing. "She's okay," he confirmed, "just unconscious." The binding stone cracked down the middle with a sound like breaking glass. The 2 halves fell away from each other, revealing a small hollow in the center. Inside was what appeared to be water, but water that moved with purpose, swirling and churning inside its stone prison. "The entity," Father Mikhail whispered. "Trapped." Anna stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked around in confusion, then understanding dawned in her eyes. She touched her throat, then opened her mouth to speak. No sound came out. Dr. Phillips helped her sit up. "Anna, can you hear me?" he asked gently. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Your sacrifice worked," I told her, finding it difficult to keep my own voice steady. "The entity is trapped. The cycle is broken." She reached for Dr. Phillips's pocket notebook and pen. He handed them to her, and she wrote quickly, "Everyone will be safe now?" "Yes," I assured her. "Thanks to you." We carried Anna back to town, where her mother waited anxiously. The reunion was bittersweet. Joy at Anna's safe return mingled with grief over the price she'd paid. Dr. Phillips examined her thoroughly back at the Kolikoff home. "Physically, her vocal cords appear normal," he reported. "But when she tries to speak, nothing happens. It's as if the neural pathway between thought and speech has been severed." "Will she ever speak again?" Mrs. Kolikoff asked, tears streaming down her face. He shook his head slowly. "I don't know. This isn't a medical condition I've ever encountered. I can refer her to specialists, but..." Anna tugged at her mother's sleeve and wrote on her notepad, "It's okay. I chose this." In the days that followed, word spread through Nuvisoki about Anna's sacrifice. Some believed, some didn't, but all recognized the courage of the young girl who would never speak again. Before I left to return to Russia, I visited Anna one last time. She was sitting on the porch swing, watching other children play in the street. She smiled when she saw me and waved. I sat beside her. "I wanted to say goodbye," I told her, "and to thank you. What you did was braver than anything I've seen in all my years as an exorcist." She wrote on her notepad, "Will it ever come back?" "No," I said with certainty. "You ended the cycle permanently. Nuvisoki may face normal hardships now, without the entity's protection, but no more sacrifices will be required." She nodded, then wrote, "The rules changed, just like it said they would." "Yes," I agreed. "From rules of possession to rules of sacrifice." She thought for a moment, then wrote one final question. "What will you tell the church?" I considered this. How could I explain what had happened here? A 12-year-old girl giving up her voice to trap an entity that had haunted a town for generations? The strange rules that governed both the possession and the liberation? "I'll tell them the truth," I said finally. "That sometimes the strongest faith comes not from those who speak the loudest, but from those willing to fall silent for the good of others." Anna smiled and tucked her notepad away. No further words were needed. As my plane left American airspace the next day, I thought about the rules that govern our world, both seen and unseen. Some rules can be broken, others can be changed, but the most important rules, those of sacrifice, courage, and love, remain constant across all boundaries. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is follow them, no matter the cost.